show. This is the 20th webinar in 20 weeks that PRSA St. Louis has hosted in conjunction with the Kansas City PRSA, the Springfield, Missouri PRSA, as well as Nebraska and Southeastern Wisconsin PRSA. So for those of you that are joining us from all around the country, thank you. Today, I'm really honored to have with us a very, very seasoned, that doesn't mean old, but a very seasoned PR practitioner who some of us, ironically, back in the 90s, and yes, I can say that because that was 20 plus years ago, knew Peter as the main communicator on a Yahoo listserv. So for those of you that know what a Yahoo listserv is, it was kind of the thing before groups or chats or anything else. And I think, Peter, what did you grow that to? Maybe 10,000, 20,000 people?
Something like that, yeah.
So we all interacted, and it was a lot of fun. And that's how I got to know Peter 20 some odd years ago, and just an all-around inspirational guy. He does speeches all around the country, all over the world, actually, on PR. You can see him as a talking head on all the major networks, Fox, NBC, CBS.
I don't do Fox anymore.
Okay, no Fox anymore. That's good. But Peter also runs Shankman, which is a mastermind group that a couple of years ago I was honored to participate in. And Peter has been a true friend of PRSA across the country. He flew into St. Louis a couple of years ago to do it was a sexual harassment in the media event. And we had Catherine Kendall, who was one of the first Harvey Weinstein accusers, come in as well. So they did some presentations in tandem there. So without any further ado, I know I missed a little bit about your background. You've written 5 books, and the way you write those books are amazing. So I'm going to turn it over to Peter Shankman, and I know part of your presentation is talking about yourself. So thank you again for being here this morning. And I do encourage everyone, please, if you have questions during this presentation, go to the chat feature, ask those questions, and we'll interrupt Peter and kind of ask those questions on the fly. So Peter, good morning.
Sure, why not? Let's interrupt Peter anytime. It's good to see you again, Chris. Good to be here, guys. Thanks for listening. What is this? This is day 886, I think, of being in my apartment here in Manhattan. If I had known on March 8th when I stepped off a plane at Newark after keynoting in Vegas that morning that was going to be my last flight for 7 months, I probably would have spent a few more minutes on the plane. It is a weird time. It is a weird time. And we'll talk about sort of what that means for all of us. But it is a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. A lot of you guys know me from Harrow, the company I started and sold to Decision a while back. I've written books. I have a podcast that focuses on ADD and ADHD, with the premise that ADHD and any sort of neurodiversity is a gift, not really a curse, if you know how to use it. We just recorded our 200th episode of the podcast. There's a book by the same name, so it's good. It's good. Things could be worse. It is like I said, a weird time. I'm looking outside my apartment right now. I'm on the 56th floor. I'll show what I'm looking at. 56th floor overlooking Midtown Manhattan. And right down there is 9th Avenue. And 9th Avenue is supposed to be jammed right now. It is a Friday, a normal Friday. That street would be just completely full of traffic. And there's maybe 50 cars as far as I can see. So it's definitely strange. Midtown over there is no longer the Midtown that it once was. The majority of the buildings, of the office buildings, are empty. I keep an office in Midtown, and I went there yesterday for the first time in about a week and a half, and there's normally about 300 people on the floor, and it was me and one other person. So it is definitely a weird time to be alive, but we are alive. And as such, we still have to, live our life and do things and generate revenue and make our clients happy and make our reporters happy. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the changes, things that we've seen differently over the past 7 or 8 months and sort of what's coming down the pike. One of the things I do that Chris didn't mention is I'm a futurist in residence at a company called Epic Marketing Consultants out of Delaware. And they have clients all over the world, and I am their futurist. I spend a lot of time thinking about not just what's going to happen next month, but what's going to happen in like 10, 20, 50, 100 years, 500 years from now, and how that impacts us today. And one of the interesting things that I've noticed since this whole thing started happening about 8 months ago is that we have tremendous opportunities that didn't exist 7 or 8 months ago. And I'm not just talking about the basics of, being able to work from wherever you want because no one goes anywhere anymore. But more than that, the bar for communicators, and I mean, for that matter, the bar in any customer service environment has always been low, right? There are very, very few times where, I don't know, we've gotten on an airplane and you've said, when you get off, you say, wow, that was an amazing flight. Normally it's like, oh God, horrible flight. I deal with this and that, and they took off late and I lost my seat. And whenever I give these keynotes, on a stage, like we used to do, I ask people who flew here and who had a good flight. And someone will always say, oh, I had a good flight, I had a great flight. I'll ask, well, what made it great? And they go, well, we took off on time, we landed on time, I had the seat I wanted. Okay, that's just called a flight, right? It's not a great flight. You didn't do anything special to get on that flight. You bought a contract of carriage when you bought your ticket, and the airline got you where you were going to go and did what they said they do. So it wasn't a great flight, it was just a flight. But the reason it was great to you was because you expected, to get the anal probe from the TSA, right? And then to get by the time you get to the gate, they changed your gate. By the time you actually get to the airport, they gave your first class seat away. Now you're sitting in like seat 37 bathroom. And so the fact that they gave you the seat you wanted and you took off on time and landed on time, you're over the moon. So if you think about it that way, the bar, if you can believe it, has even gotten lower. Now we have half the country believing that masks are a plot by Bill Gates to kill us all. So if the bar is that low, I don't really need you to be awesome. I need you to do the most basic of work to get ahead of everyone else. My favorite joke in the world is these two guys are running in the woods on a trail run. And they're about 5 miles in, and they see a bear. And the bear notices them, and it raises its hands, it claws, and stands up, and it's going to attack. And the first guy says, oh my God, we're dead. We're going to die. And the second guy leans down and he tightens up his running shoes. And the first guy says, the hell are you doing? You can't outrun a bear. And the second guy says, no, I just need to outrun you. So I don't need you to be awesome. I need you to suck slightly less than what everyone expects. So how do we do that? Well, 4 basic principles really apply more so than ever in today's world. First one is the concept of transparency. We expect to be lied to. We expect that every bit of information we get, we have to take with a grain of salt. We don't expect companies, governments, people to tell us the truth. When you're in public relations or marketing or communications, that's like a multiple of 10. So the simple act of being transparent, of owning your screw-ups, of saying, I don't know, but I'm going to try to find out, that's more than most people do. So being able to say, here's the problem and here's how we're going to fix it, automatically puts you ahead of the game. Crazy thing is, a study came out a couple years ago that said that people who get screwed over by your company, but then have the problem fixed, are actually 2 times more likely to stay on as your client or as your customer than regular people who just had a good experience. How crazy is that? The people who get screwed, as long as you fix the problem, are more likely to stay and buy from you again. Now, I'm not suggesting you go out there and deliberately screw over your customers just to fix the problem, but it tells you something about what we expect, what our expectations are, right? We expect to get screwed over. We don't expect someone to reach out and fix our problem. 70% of all customer service complaints on social media last year, or 2 years ago, I believe, 70% of them didn't actually need a resolution. They just wanted to be heard. And so think about how easy it is if you simply reply on time, or answer a reporter's query on time, or reach out to someone when you have nothing to sell and you're just offering help. Transparency has to rule the day. The nice thing about being transparent is that when you're working with reporters or you're working in an industry, it's so unexpected that you're automatically ahead of the game. In the 50s, it was incredibly easy to lie. I'm out of LaCroix. Anyone ever drink LaCroix? It's like what I imagine if I had a drink TV Static. I imagine that's what it would be like. I'm gonna keep talking and get another LaCroix. But back in the 50s, it was very easy to lie. There we go. I got a bigger one this time. Vintage. In the 50s, you could lie, you could issue a press release, and it would take 3 weeks to fact check it. P.S. The story ran already and life went on. Today, there's instant fact checking, right? You jump online, within 2 seconds, you know whether something's true or false or has been printed already or whatever. So the concept of lying and being able to get away with it is actually much harder than it ever has been. So that begs the question, if you can't lie, why bother? You're gonna get caught. It's a lot easier to simply be honest, to own it. The hard part is that sometimes you have to convince the people in charge that lying is bad. We've all been in this moment where we have to issue that press release we know is patently false, or we know is going to cause more harm than good. And we have a moment now where we can stand up and say, you know what? That's not going to work. Not only because it's the wrong thing to do, but it's going to hurt us financially because it's so easy to check. Back in the 80s, a company called Union Carbide had a chemical company had an accident at a plant in Bhopal, India, where they released, it was 8,200 pounds of cyanide gas into the low atmosphere across the entire city of Bhopal, and they killed like 4,000 people or something overnight. The first press release they issued, which a lot of media ran with, was like 2 days later. They said 2 workers were slightly injured when a steam pipe ruptured. And media ran with that because they had no way to check, right? They didn't have anyone on the ground in Bhopal, India. They probably couldn't even spell Bhopal, India. Today, I had all the information I need right here, or for that matter, even right here. So understand that transparency has to rule the day. And the nice thing about transparency, like I said, is that if you are one of those people who's looked at as honest and looked at as telling the truth, that actually does put you in a different category. And it doesn't seem like it should. It's like, well, shouldn't we all be honest? Yeah, we should, but we're not. When you have time, go watch a movie called The Invention of Lying with Ricky Gervais. Brilliant film. It's about a world where no one knows how to lie until Ricky Gervais figures it out. So it's something to consider. If transparency is that easy, we should all be doing it. But we're all not going to. So if you do, you'll do a lot better. I'd say the second rule that matters today more than ever is the concept of relevance. And here's why relevance is so important. We are getting more news. I did an informal study a couple of weeks ago. I looked at my logs on how much I've been on my phone. And I've obviously been on my phone a lot more over the past 7 months because everything's going on. But the apps that I've used have shifted, right? I moved away from Facebook. I still have an account, but I don't go on it anymore. It's just a toxic wasteland. So I get rid of Facebook, so my Facebook has dropped dramatically, but my news apps have increased, right? And it's at the point now where we wake up every morning and we look at our phone and, we literally start our morning with, okay, what horrible bullshit happened last night? Because that's what we expect. We get the alerts from the news outlets on our phone and it's literally, oh, for fuck's sake, what now, right? So how does relevance fit into this? Well, because we're getting so many more updates, alerts, Slack notifications, whatever, our brain tends to shut them off. we don't necessarily see them. And so if you're trying to reach reporters or pitching a product or a client or whatever, you have to understand that the majority of what reporters get falls into the ether, just like we are used to getting news alerts every 5 minutes that the world is ending. So how do you become relevant to a reporter if the chances are they're going to not pay attention to your information? The number one answer to that is to understand that when the best time to pitch a reporter is not when you are pitching something, but when you have nothing to pitch. The best time to hit a reporter, the best time to reach out, the best time to push for a marketing push, anything like that, is not when you have something to sell. It's long before that, when you have nothing to sell, when you have nothing to pitch, and you could simply send an email that says, hey, how can I help? Harrow started because I would send emails once a year to several thousand reporters and say, hey, my name is Peter Shankman. I know a lot of people. I have massive ADHD and I fly all the time. And when you sit next to me in a plane, unless you fake your own death, I don't know everything about you by the time we land. So I have a really big audience and a really big Rolodex, and I'm happy to help. And I'd send an email out, and I'd get the occasional, what's wrong with you? Never email me again. But majority of reporters would say, okay, thanks. I'll see what I can do. And they would call me. They would email me. They would say, hey, I'm doing a story on whatever. Who do you know? And I'd find them someone. And that led to two things. That led to Harrow, but it also led to reporters trusting me and reporters recognizing my email in their inbox. So out of the line of clutter, there was mine, and it stood out. So you have to ask yourself, what can you do to stand out to a reporter? And the answer starts with sending them information when you have nothing to pitch, offering help, being relevant to your audience. Keep in mind, having an audience is a privilege. It's not a right. No one has the right to an audience. I joke that it's like wearing spandex. I do Ironman triathlons. I know you're looking at me going, no, you're confused. You sit on your ass watching the movie Iron Man, but no, I really do Iron Man. And I don't have the right to wear spandex when I'm training. On race day, I've earned that privilege, right? So I can wear spandex for one day, I do the race, I finish the race, I get my medal, and then someone comes over and says, sir, congratulations, now please put on this bulky t-shirt. I get it. But having an audience is the exact same way. You don't have the right to an audience. You have to earn the privilege by producing and giving good quality content every time you talk to them. If you don't do that, they will simply go away. So the question becomes, what can you do to give information of quality content to reporters or to clients or to whoever you're trying to get? And that starts with, again, offering help as opposed to pitching, but also asking your audience how they like to get their information. I've seen countless times where I sign up for something, I buy a product. Political donations are the best example. I send $100 to a candidate. Within an hour, I have 8 emails, not only from them, but from all the people who work with them and all the other candidates who are on the same ticket. Dude, I just wanted to give you a donation, right? No one expects this managed acquisition. Give me the opportunity of how to reach me, how to send me information that I want, the way I want it. Be relevant to me. Start by asking your audience how they like to get the information that you send, and then give it to them the way they want. Because when I receive, or when anyone receives information sent in the manner that they wanted it to be sent, they become invested in whatever it is you're doing. So if you're building information and you're sending out content because eventually you want people to buy from you, the information you're sending out has to be relevant to their needs, to their wants, and sent in a way that they want it. I have a mailing list, which you can sign up for at shank.mn/emails, shank.mn/emails. And I bring that up because I send out maybe one email every 2 weeks, but they're never sell. If anyone's on my list, they're never sales emails. Their information, their help, their, hey guys, I just found this cool thing you want to know about, or I was thinking about this, and here's some ways to survive pandemic and lockdown. At the bottom of the emails, every once in a while, I'll put a PS. I'm doing this event or this course or this whatever, but I never sell. I put together a series of brainstorming sessions that I charge for, and I sent out an email a couple weeks ago. So it's, talking about completely unrelated to the brainstorming, talking about something that was useful to my audience. And at the bottom, the last paragraph, by the way, guys, PS, I'm doing this series of brainstorming sessions. Feel free to check it out. And I sold them out in under a day, 48 spots sold out in under a day, because I've been giving my audience valuable information for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and I rarely try to sell them. So ask yourself, how can you be relevant to an audience by giving them the information they want the way they want it? And if you don't believe that if you need another example of how this works, I sit on the board of an animal rescue society, a nonprofit. And I first found them, was in my spare time. I'm a skydiver. I jump out of planes. I get about close to 500 jumps. And one of my friends several years ago was killed in a base jump accident. And her husband said, instead of sending money, donate to this animal rescue society. And what is his email list serve? I'll put it in the chat. And I sent a check. I'm putting this in the .mn/email. There you go. So I sent them a check to this animal rescue society. And about 3 months later, they sent me a coffee table book with, pictures of animals and whatever. I'm like, oh, that's very nice. And every day I'd leave my house and I'd have to look at this book as I was walking out, because I didn't own a coffee table at the time. And I'm like, this is probably like 2006. I'm like, why would they send this to me? Why wouldn't they send me like a link to something I could share or whatever? And I finally got angry, and I called them, and I got their head of giving on the phone. Why would you send me this? Why wouldn't you send me like a link? Well, sir, most of our donors are older, and we believe they prefer, print. And okay, fair enough. You've done your homework. They're like, well, no, we haven't polled them or anything. We just assumed. And I got really angry, and I joined their board. And we spent the next year interviewing every current and past donor, asking them how they like to get their information. And shock of shocks, 92%, something like that, said they wouldn't mind getting it online. So we started a Facebook page, a Twitter page, a YouTube channel, an email list, whole thing. In 12 months, donations went up by 37%. And the nonprofit saved over $500,000 on postage, mailing, shipping, packaging, production. Imagine going to your boss and saying, hey, we saved $500,000 in costs, and I increased revenue by 37%. Be relevant to your audience. That's rule 2. Third rule is the concept of brevity. And brevity is really interesting, especially in today, because like I said, every 3 seconds we're getting another text, another, oh my God, the world's crashing and this is happening and the country's going to hell and all that. But what is brevity? Brevity simply means that you're giving your audience or reporters, whatever, information in a certain amount of time that allows them to get the information they need and not waste time. Back in the 50s, the average attention span to get someone was about 4 minutes. In the 80s, by the 80s, it was 3 minutes, roughly the size of an MTV music video. 5 years ago, it was 2.7 seconds. Now it's about 2.2. So you have 2.2 seconds, which is nothing, to reach your audience for the first time. I'm hearing my daughter scream. She's on a Zoom class right now in the next room. She's 7 years old, and all her teachers have lied to me. She is, in fact, not a pleasure to have in class. But if we have 2.2 seconds to reach our audience, which is roughly 150 characters, more or less, half a paragraph, you got to become better communicators. You have to become better communicators. You have to be able to talk. You have to be able to listen. You have to be able to get your point across in such a way that you are not making stupid mistakes. You are spelling things correctly. Your grammar is on point. You get their name right. It sounds basic, But I had a professor at Boston University years and years ago who said, be brilliant at the basics. And no one was. 1 out of every 2 corporate homepages in America, 1 out of every 2, has a spelling or grammatical error on the homepage. Stop and think about that for a second. If it's not the person next to you or your competitor, it's you. How can I trust you to answer my questions, to get my information correct, to give me what I need, if you can't spell, if you make stupid errors? Become brilliant at the basics. That will save you. I remember seeing my daughter when she was like a year or so. She went to this place in New York called Kidville. It's like a preschool or whatever. And they, as far as you can tell, they take her and they throw her in a ball pit for 3 hours. But it's 3 hours and I can get a break. And I remember I dropped her off for the first time. I was a single dad. I was a little nervous. And I begrudgingly left. I came back 3 hours later. She seemed fine. She had all her fingers, all her toes. I'm okay, great. And I took her home. My daughter has a very unique name. Her name is Jessa. And I got her home, and that evening I get an email from Kidville. Dear Mr. Shankman, just want to say thank you for, and we hope Jessica enjoyed her first day. Well, my kid's name is Jessa, not Jessica, and that really falls under the category of you had one effing job. How can I trust you? I went into her room to make sure it was the right kid, right? If you can't get her name right, how can I trust you to do anything else? I can trust you to take care of her. Become brilliant at the basics. Good writing is brevity. Brevity is good communication. If you speak in front of people, take a class. You know, I hate to promote them because it's a cult, but take an improv class. Improv teaches you to answer one basic question, which is yes and. If you can answer yes and without 100 different ums or I don't know, or you're gonna be fine. Take a writing class. We have so much free time now, and everything in the world has gone digital. I could find 400 writing classes for you to take online. Chances are they're all for free, like immediately. So if you have 2.2 seconds to reach your audience, become brilliant at the basics. That's brevity. Finally, rule 4, which sort of takes all this and fine-tunes it to a point, is the premise of top of mind. Remember how I mentioned under relevance that all these reporters have so much in their inbox and they just tend to dismiss it all. Top of mind means they think of you first when they need something that you can do. Back in the 70s, a guy named Barry Diller started Paramount. He went over to Paramount Pictures to be their CEO. And everyone, excuse me, everyone said it was an entire waste of time because Paramount was about 2 inches from bankruptcy at the time. And he took the chance and he went over there and he did 2 things differently. He reached out to 10 people in his Rolodex every morning. For those under 30 on the call, a Rolodex was like Outlook, but it had cards and you'd turn it. He'd reach out to 10 people in his Rolodex every morning and just say hi. Right? Hey, it's Barry Diller. What's going on in New York? How's the weather in London? What are you working on in LA? Didn't try to sell him anything. Just, how can I help? The 5 most unutilized words in the English language. How can I help you? When he finished the entire Rolodex, he'd start again. So if you were in Barry Diller's Rolodex, once every 3 or 4 months, you'd get a call from Barry Diller asking how he could help. When you had a movie you wanted greenlit, or an actor you wanted signed to a 5-picture deal, or you needed financing, you could have gone to 20th Century Fox, or you could have gone to Warner Brothers, or you could have called Barry back. Barry was top of mind. And between 1976 and 1987, while Barry was at Paramount, he was responsible for such films as Flashdance, Footloose, Beverly Hills Cop, Officer and Gentleman, 3 Men and a Baby, Top Gun. I mean, the films go on and on. He took Paramount from 2 seconds from bankruptcy to the first billion-dollar studio in the world, let alone Hollywood. So you got to ask yourself, how can you be top of mind? And that's where all the other 3 rules come into play. You're transparent, you're relevant to your audience, you give them information they want when they want it, you don't waste their time, you don't constantly try to sell them, you offer help, and you do it in a perfect way that takes a very, very short amount of time so they don't lose their attention. You do those things, you become top of mind, and top of mind gets your emails answered. Top of mind gets your phone calls returned. Because top of mind says, okay, this person's calling me, they are useful to me. It is in my best interest to take this person's call or respond to this person's email. That is your goal. That is your ultimate goal, is to create a world where you become the person that everyone wants to talk to. And I would argue that the best thing we have going for us right now in this crazy, crazy, crazy time. And we got the elections coming up. We got probably a second wave of COVID. There seems to be a fog currently moving across Central Park that's probably going to kill us. I don't know what the hell that is. It's really weird. Anyway, we are in this very, very weird time. But any reinvention that has ever occurred, either for a business or for a world or for a human, has occurred in really, really, really weird times. If there was ever a time to try something new, to risk it, to go after whatever, it is now. Because everything is so ridiculously crazy, no one cares. Now is the time. So you want to reinvent yourself? You want to become a butterfly when you're currently a caterpillar? Now is the time to do it. Try something new. Shift how you react, shift how you respond, shift how you talk to people, shift how you communicate. And I'll leave it on one final point, and then I'll turn it back over to Chris. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the fact that 2020 has given us an obscene amount of stress. There is not one person in this room who thought on January 15th that this is what we'd be doing on September 25th. Not one person. We have adapted really, really well. But the problem is, it comes at a cost of our mental health. And so I encourage you, regardless of how you feel or how you think you're feeling, to take care of yourselves. Because it is very, very easy to get stuck down a hole from everything that we're dealing with on a daily basis. Your mental health is ridiculously important and often very overlooked. You know, we're not walking around as much as we used to, right? We're becoming more sedentary because where the hell are we going to go? We're in lockdown all the time. Be aware that working from home is not as cool as it seems. I've been doing it for 20 years. Be aware that you need to take care of yourself. Eat a vegetable once in a while, right? Not every meal has to be takeout. Go to the gym. If you can't go to a gym, just walk around, buy a pair of kettlebells. Do something that allows you to take care of yourselves mentally and physically, because if you don't do that, none of what I said matters because you'll be dead. So I strongly encourage you, take care of yourselves first. You are the longest project you're ever going to work on. So make sure you're working on it well. All right, I will leave it at that as Chris just popped his head back in. So Chris, you want to take it over?
Hey, well, thank you, Peter. This is amazing. Great words of wisdom, and we truly appreciate you being with us this morning. I'm going to throw it over to Bridget in Kansas City, if Bridget would like to say a few words.
Hi, Peter. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Hi from Kansas City. So this has been great. I mean, it's been needed. For me, it's a good reminder of getting back to the basics, doing what we know to be right. And I like the thought of trying something new. And I work for a university, and that's all we've had to do is try something new since March. And some things have worked and some things haven't. And, following the rules, like with social media, analytics, do this, do that, do these steps, that's good. But now's the time to try something new because we're in that space right now. So I'm going to take that back to my coworkers and my team and say, hey, what can we do new that's different, and just give it a shot.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
I think everyone's using the word pivoting these days. Is how often
we need to lose the word pivoting, and we need to lose the word unprecedented. If I hear one more person tell me shit's unprecedented, dude, we know.
So does anyone else have any questions out there? Thank you, Bridget, for your comments in Kansas City. I know the Kansas City chapter has been a big advocate of these webinar series, but please use the chat feature if you have any questions. We're lucky enough to have Peter Shankman on this morning. We'd love for you to join his Shank Minds, as far as go to that shank.mn.emails and register to be on his list to get that information from him on every 2-week basis. But knowing Peter, he does provide a lot of great information, and people like myself kind of follow him like a cult leader sometimes. And so we've been a part of some of his Shank Minds, and people from all over the country. So whether it's Ira in Nevada or a number of other people, good part of PRSA and joining groups and making friends through PRSA is that you build those relationships. And I would like to encourage you that if you're not a member of PRSA, please consider joining. We have a triple play program right now to where you can join and you get 3 times the benefit. I don't say 3 times the benefits, 3 times the savings. So you can use triple play 20 as when you register to become a member of PRSA, and you get a steep discount there. So please talk about how people are using video in an innovative way on social media. And before Peter answers that, I would like to say that all of our webinars that we have done, including this one, will be on the PRSA St. Louis YouTube page. So if you'd like to go to our YouTube account and rewatch this or send this out to some of your friends, please do that. So Peter, do you want to answer that real quick?
Yeah, let me see what came up. Talk about how people are using video in innovative ways. So I think that one of the interesting things about video is that the quality has become so much better and so much easier to do. I own a, what the hell's the name of the, let me look it up. It's a camera that is literally the size of my keychain. And it's a 360 degree, oh, I know what it is. Hang on, I'll send you the link right now. It's called Insta 360. And, here it is, the Insta 360 1X. I jumped out of a plane over the pyramids of Egypt with this thing last October, and it is awesome. It's such an amazing unit, and it takes 360 degree video, which you can then edit on your phone. And so the quality of video has become, and what you can do with it has become so much better. So for me, it's so simple to simply create something, say, oh, this is cool, let's make this, and then send it out on an Instagram story or whatever. Adobe has a phenomenal series. Here's the link to the Insta 360. Adobe has a phenomenal series of tools. Their Creative Cloud works incredibly well on both iPhone and Android. That allows you to mix photos on the fly, to make quality videos on the fly. Videos that like 10 years ago, just 10 years ago, you would have needed like, a whole production studio. You can do them on your phone now, and they're just as good. And so if you follow me on Instagram, at Peter Shankman, I'm at Peter Shankman everywhere, including Peloton, by the way, if anyone's a rider and wants to ride with me. Got to get the Peloton plug in there. But, at Peter Shankman on Instagram, I put together some fun little video stories all the time. If you check my favorites, my highlights reel, and it's easily done. It's done, online. So video is a huge, huge way. The thing about video, though, it has to, if you're reaching an audience to use video, you have to say, okay, I want to take this video and I want to make someone sit here and watch this for a minute and a half, or however long it is. So make sure it's relevant to them, because especially as someone like me with ADHD, if I don't know you and you send me a video that says, hey, Peter, please watch this video, where you're, those things where you can make a video email, right? You really think I'm going to click out of my email onto your little thing and watch it for a minute and a half when I don't know who you are? No chance in hell. So make sure you're creating good quality content. There's a reason that the highest viewed videos on Facebook, on YouTube, there's a reason their thumbnail is usually a very attractive woman in a bikini. Just do the math, right? So if you look at the people on YouTube, the majority of them are men. There you go. So understand that you have to create compelling video. Anyone can create video. Creating compelling video is a little harder, but not impossible. So work on creating compelling quality video.
So just to that point too, I'd like to throw out there some of the stuff that we're doing as a company here in St. Louis is we have really focused on video production for some of our clients and taking some of their what would be in-person events and making those live events or pre-producing those events and then scheduling them as live events. So whether it be a graduation ceremony for Logan University or a white coat ceremony or something else that they would normally have, taking those and making it personal to where the people that are expected to be there in the seats feel like they're there and we're honoring them directly. So that might be another way is making your event more personable and reaching those people where they would go to a normal live event. So Peter, I know you're short on time, but does anyone else have any other questions that you'd like to throw up in the chat?
You can also, I'm happy to answer emails. Peter@shankman.com. I answer all my emails, and I'm, like I said, at Peter Shankman everywhere, Twitter, Facebook, not Facebook anymore, Twitter, YouTube. I don't know, where the hell are we? Snapchat, Instagram, whatever.
So Peter, do tell a story about how you write your books, because I think that I find that fascinating on your mind and how you operate and how other people operate, but it's a great story.
You got to know yourself. So my ADHD doesn't allow me to write. I remember I got my 5th book contract, and the publisher's like, well, just write a page a day. In about a year, you'll be done. Like, that's not going to happen. No, I waited until about 2 weeks from the deadline, and I booked a flight to Tokyo, a round-trip flight in business class to Tokyo. I wrote chapters 1 through 5 on the flight out. I landed in Tokyo, went to the lounge, had a cup of coffee, took a shower, never left the airport. Got back on the same plane, same seat 2 hours later, and flew home from Tokyo to Newark and wrote chapters 6 through 10. And I landed in New York 35 hours after I took off with a book. I was a zombie, and I got detained by Homeland because I never actually cleared customs in Asia, but I had a book, right? So it's whatever works for you, do it, right? Stop caring what other people think and just do whatever works for you. Thank you, Jeff, for the kind words, by the way.
Well, that's awesome, Peter. Well, thank you again. I know your daughter's probably done with
perfect timing. Yeah, she's just finishing up class.
All right. Well, thank you for being with us today. Again, like normal, thank you. You've done an awesome job. We truly appreciate and value your time with being with us today. I do want to say that we do have our next webinar on October the 8th. I'd like you to join us if you can. Go to the St. Louis PRSA YouTube channel to pick up some of these valuable bits of information as far as programming, because we do have them all on our YouTube channel. I see we have one more, Shira from St. Louis. Thanks so much, Peter. We truly appreciate you being here. How do I reach people in general, in public, out of your own bubble? I guess
start interacting with them. Stop trying to reach them. Start interacting. Follow them online. See what they're saying. Respond to them. Start a conversation.
As simple as that. Well, and Peter, we actually a couple years ago did the sexual harassment in the media webinar. It was actually an in-person event here in St. Louis at Missouri Baptist University. And one of the interesting things that I found was that in order to get the speakers for that event, I went to Twitter and I went to the list of Harvey Weinstein accusers from number 1 to number 100. And I reached out to the first 10 people that accused Harvey Weinstein of sexual harassment. And Catherine Kendall was on that list of 10, the first 10, and I had 4 out of those 10 people reach back to me on Twitter, just because I reached out to them and asked them to be a speaker. So that's all it takes to reach out to them.
Coming, honey. All right, guys, I got a jet. I have a 7-year-old. She's demanding. Let me say thank you, and please feel free to continue the conversation with me either on Twitter or by email, peter@shankman.com.
Thanks again for your time,
Thank
Peter.
you.
Everyone have a great day. Stay safe. And as Nora O'Donnell says, test negative, right? Be positive. Test negative.
Amen.